Hey, what is up, everybody, and welcome to the College Info Geek podcast, the internet's best resource for students looking to get ahead, but not a good resource for learning how to surf horses.
That's reasonable.
I did see that in a movie once, in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Pretty sure that was actual stuntmen, not CGI. So, especially the point where they grab the horse's legs and toss horses at each other, that is also real.
I forgot that happened.
Yeah.
That does sound real, though.
It's very real.
Everything you're telling me sounds real.
And unfortunately, we can't teach you how to do it.
I'm not strong enough to throw a horse yet.
I am.
I'm trying. I got the exercise routine going.
Oh, good.
The protein smoothies. But
what animal have you started with?
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't even gotten to animals yet. I haven't thrown any animals.
I've thrown us like some
workout
grasshoppers,
routine is weak.
Locust throwing.
They don't seem to like it.
No, they don't. Anywho, my name is Thomas Frank, and I'm here as always with my good friend Martin Bamey.
That's my name.
Who doesn't like throwing animals? Apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Actually, when I was a kid, the bully kid in the neighborhood found a toad in my backyard, and then before I could do anything, he chucked it against my fence, and it died, and I was traumatized.
Yeah.
And I didn't like him anymore. I didn't really like him in the first place, but when you're a kid, you just sort of like hang out with the kids in the neighborhood, even if they're kind of jerks because they're just there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I just didn't have a lot of urges to torture animals.
Yeah, me neither. Weird, huh?
I don't know what it is about it. Maybe the torturing of animals.
That might be it. That could be the main factor.
That could be. Toads are cool. Look at them.
I know, right?
They're cute.
I wanted to take pictures of it, or I don't know, let it go, or keep it as a pet.
Yeah.
I did have a praying mantis as a pet once.
Ooh, that's cool.
That was cool, and then I let it go. I felt bad because I was like, I found crickets and stuff to throw in the little cage, but I was like, he's not really hunting those. It feels wrong.
Yeah.
He's a hunter. I can't be keeping him in this cage.
He wants to earn it.
Exactly. Yeah, he wants to earn it. Before we get started here, I want to let everyone know that I have to make up these little jokes at the beginning of the podcast. Now, horse surfing may be a great joke, but maybe you're at home thinking, this is a terrible joke. Why would he start the podcast with that? He could have started the podcast with a much better saying that is currently locked into my brain right now, but I haven't told him about it.
Ooh.
Well, you could tell me about it.
Crowdsourcing.
So, yeah, if you want your stupid opening joke to be on the show, you can tweet me at Tom Frankly your stupid joke. You can also Instagram me, but I gotta tell everyone, my Instagram DMs they're overflowing.
They're a mess right now.
Yeah, I think like I'm in a backlog that I will never be able to get out of. I think I've solidly hit the point where it's like I can't answer every single one. So I'll still try to answer some, and I'm definitely looking through them for questions. We're doing 5 questions today, but Twitter makes it easier because I can see all my at mentions. They're just there.
Yeah, they're in a row.
Yes, they're all just sitting there.
Because you gotta like click most of the things.
Yeah, and actually, what you could do is use the hashtag CIG podcast.
Ooh.
With your joke.
Ooh, that's the best hashtag I've ever heard.
In TweetDeck, I could make a hashtag CIG podcast column, and I would only see stupid intro jokes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Do that if you want to have your joke in the beginning of an episode, unless I come up with a better joke than you guys. So now the ball's in your court.
Yeah.
No sandbagging here. Anywho, so this episode, like many other of its kind, is going to be 5 questions from you guys, which I took, I think, primarily from Instagram this time. That's where I get a lot of my questions now. But for these 5 questions episodes, I take questions from all manner of sources: Twitter, email, Facebook, whatever. Beat Bop. Now I'm just making up social networks.
Yeah.
Fleabo.
That's
a pretty cool one.
Is that a real one? Because that sounds like a good one. That's like a good.
If it's not real, then you make it. My friend Matt once tried to make a social network for dogs.
Did they like it?
I don't know how that works. Well, I guess I could see how it would work because people make social Instagrams for their dog, and they get famous.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't Amar's dog have more followers than he does on Instagram or something like that?
I don't know. Dogs are cute. I could see how it could happen.
I see exactly how it happens. So maybe a social network for dogs is genius, and maybe Matt needs to pick that project back up.
Maybe.
But whatever social network you use, besides the one for dogs, because I won't be checking that one. Only dogs will be. you can send us questions, and we'll do our little lightning round episodes where we answer 5 of them, like this one. So what do you say we just get into them questions?
No, let's push it off
Oh, okay.
further.
All right.
Double intro.
What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
Name of the win. Let's discuss the entire Wise Man's Fear.
Everyone hates me now. Let's just get into the questions.
You know you can derail me pretty easily.
Yeah.
All right. So the first question is, how do you decide which of your impossible list goals to work on? So for context, my impossible list is a page on my website, which is related to a bucket list. It's got some differences, but it is basically my form of a long-term goal tracker. It's essentially a big, long list of all these cool things I want to do in my life, fitness goals, professional goals, fun/insane things that I want to do, like go wingsuit flying someday, go skydiving,
cool.
Travel goals, all kinds of stuff like that. And then as I do them, I cross them off. Now, people are probably saying, like, this sounds like a bucket list. It's very similar to a bucket list, but instead of simply crossing things off and then saying they're done, typically what I will do is I'll iterate and make a sub-bullet that's more difficult. So when I hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers, I didn't quit there. I was like, all right, the next goal is 5,000. Or when I ran a triathlon, it's like, all right, well, the next goal is to run like an actual organized triathlon. And after that, maybe it's run an Ironman. I don't know if I care about an Ironman specifically, but the idea is to constantly iterate and to constantly evolve. And then I have also put a last 5 achieved goals list at the top, and I put the date at which I achieved them. So I can see right at the top how long ago it's been since I did something cool in my life.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And I don't like have some sort of to-do list item, like make sure I do an impossible list item every single month. But I never want to rest on my laurels. So I want to look at that and be able to say, okay, I've done something cool recently. And also, like I know we've talked about in the past, accomplishment journals can help you to maintain high self-esteem and high self-confidence, because when you feel like you haven't done anything cool in a while, being able to look back on a record of what you've done is very motivating.
Yeah.
So given that context, how do I decide which of my impossible list goals to work on? And I know you don't have an impossible list, but I would like to ask you how you decide what goals to work on. For me, it's really just a matter of what I'm interested in at the time. Like I don't wake up every Monday morning, look at the list and think, all right, let's focus on benching 350 pounds this week just because it's on the list. Like that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It's more like I want to do these things. And I think it's going to vary based on the goal. You know, so for a goal like go to the Chinese New Year in China, I don't think that like that's a super ongoing thing. That's just going to be like, all right, we want to go on a vacation. Let's go to China. Let's experience that. Whereas a goal like, I think one of them is launch a product that makes $15,000 in the first month. Okay, that's like an ongoing professional goal. I should be working towards that. That's not like a opportunistic goal. That's a procedural goal. It's something that I should be working steadily towards.
Yeah.
Same with growing my YouTube channel subscriber base. It's like that's something that happens every single day. So if I want to achieve that goal, I should just be asking myself, how do I improve the day-to-day growth numbers? And how much do I care? Like I don't have a specific date for getting to, well, I did not iterate past 1 million on YouTube because I got to the point where I don't care anymore.
So you can just focus on other types of goals now instead.
Yeah. But like say I did have 5 million on there. There's not a date on there, but I could be asking myself, like, what could I do to increase growth? Make more content, make better content, have better calls to action at the end of videos, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But often it's just a factor of what I'm interested in at the time. So right now, what I'm interested in is mountain biking and preparing my body for Ninja Warrior. Those are the 2 things I want to do. Those are both on my impossible list in one form or the other. Mountain biking is there in the form of learn how to do dirt jumps. And then Ninja Warrior is there in the form of get on Ninja Warrior and make it past the qualifying round.
Okay.
That's all I want.
That's pretty reasonable.
Then again, if I do it, I will then iterate and say, okay, now make it to nationals.
Unless you hate it.
Unless I hate it, but I don't think I'm going to hate it
doubt
because
it.
I love parkour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a combination of going with my interests, but also looking at the list often and asking myself, like, which of these goals should be ongoing works in progress.
Yeah, so that's pretty similar to how I choose things, actually. And I do have an impossible list of sorts.
Oh, yeah?
I don't necessarily bother to iterate things afterward. It's maybe closer to a bucket list, but I don't have it published anywhere. It's just in an iCloud note.
I was about to ask, can I see it?
No, it's a secret. But
I bet you're serious about that.
I don't know. It's probably not really a secret. I just don't share a lot.
You just don't care.
With the internet. Yeah. I don't care. But so it's definitely got the sort of short-term things. Like I would like to, at some point, be on a boat of some form, like completely surrounded by ocean. I can see nothing else.
Oh, ocean.
That's
okay.
a crazy experience. See a whale in its natural habitat, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Those things, like you said, it's sort of, am I inspired to do it, and is it convenient right now?
Yeah.
Because today, I'm not going to see a whale in its natural habitat.
Never say never.
I'm currently in Denver, and I have no flights.
We
booked.
could get to the coast in 2 hours, 3 hours.
I don't wanna.
Fair enough.
Today, it's. I feel like I have stuff to do.
Yeah, probably.
But then there's other stuff like regain the weight that I had at my like fitness peak.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's something, like you said, it's ongoing. I don't get to just say, I'm not inspired to exercise today. For basic stuff like that, that needs to be like a habit of some form that slowly gets there. But it's definitely just inspiration because I've tried forcing progress on goals like that in the past. And all it ever does is sap the joy out of everything.
Yeah.
If I'm like, I love reading. But if I like take my Goodreads reading goal for the year too seriously or something and demand that I've read this many goals every month, eventually I just get frustrated. I don't like reading as much. It becomes a chore. So I try to really kind of follow inspiration.
Yeah.
At all times.
There's a couple of goals that I've set multiple years in a row and have never actually achieved. The Goodreads reading goal. I've never read as many books as I set out to read in Goodreads.
Okay.
And I have never hit my mileage goal in Strava.
But like you can't beat yourself up over it, and then the last like week of the year you're like, okay, I have to ride. Okay, it's winter. I need to ride 200 more miles.
It's fine.
Whoops. And I got to read 3 books while I'm doing it. Maybe I'll count audiobooks, and then I'll just do that while biking the 200 miles.
I'll listen to audiobooks at 2x speed. I'll get a fat bike so I can ride in the winter and the snow.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. I'll ride 200 miles in a day.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the same reason if I do have a daily habit, if I'm doing like every day for 2 weeks, I'm going to read for a half hour or something. I try to do those things earlier in the day because once it gets to the point where it's maybe 11 and I'm like, oh, God, I wanted to go to sleep, but I haven't done this, and now I have to force myself to read it.
Yeah.
I'm falling asleep doing it. I don't like it anymore, and it's not good. And then I just get really debilitated because accomplishing things doesn't mean much if I hate them by the time I've accomplished them.
Very true, yeah.
So.
And one thing to note is those Goodreads goals, the mere presence of them made me read more books. The Strava one made me ride more miles.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't hit 750 miles in a year, but I did have multiple days where I rode 40 miles, and that may not have happened. The one thing I'm realizing is now that I'm doing mountain biking, road biking seems like zero fun.
Yeah.
Mountain biking is all
everything's
fun.
all flat.
It is. It's all on pavement. It's not. I mean, it's kind of fun if you're going down a hill sometimes, but there is a huge difference between going down a paved hill and going down a trail with rocks and curves and berms and things like that. It's so different. And I don't think I may track mountain bike rides on Strava, but I don't think I'll ever have a goal. And if I really think about it with road cycling, my motivation to ride long distances on my road bike has always been to see a big number in Strava, or to be able to say, I rode 50 miles today, guys, or I rode 1,000 vertical feet. How cool is that? My motivation to ride a mountain bike is pure in the moment fun.
And that's probably that. Maybe that's just a better way.
I think it's
for
so much
biking
better
to be in your life. Yeah, because if you got the output based, like unless I've accomplished this, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But the input based goal of just fun is probably going to make you ride more. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not more distance-wise, but more like calories burned more often, something like that. Because I assume that you can get farther faster on a road bike because you're not in a bunch of danger if you go super
Depends on the
fast.
terrain. Yeah, you're not going to get farther in a dirt road in the mountains.
That's true. Well, I mean, if you're just going for miles.
But yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but by any other metric that probably matters more.
Yeah, you become a skilled rider on a mountain bike more.
Yeah,
clearly. I mean, other than potentially riding in traffic, I guess you get more skilled dodging cars on a road bike. But yeah, I'm not going to quit road biking. It's a great way to get to work. But if I'm like, I want to go for a bike ride for fun, I'm probably going to drive out to a trail 9 times out of 10. And I would only go on my road bike if it was like I have very little time or something. But even then, like there's bike parks near us that I can go to.
yeah.
So that's something that I think about is like, am I just chasing the metrics, or am I doing something that does bring progression, but also I enjoy doing in the moment? Same with climbing that I'm doing right now versus simply lifting weights. With both, I'm gaining new skills and I'm strengthening my body in the act. But when I'm climbing a route, I'm also really enjoying myself. And when I'm just doing a set of shoulder presses, there's zero fun being had at the time.
Yeah, it's only for the... It's like if I go rollerblading instead of jogging, because I hate running, I'll quit within a block.
Yep.
I'll be all exhausted because my cardio is terrible for that thing, and because I'm mad that I've not seen anything. I've only gone a block. But I'll rollerblade for 14 miles, because even when I can't breathe, I'll just say, well, it's not that hard to keep going a little. I'll catch my breath while still seeing stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's just... Fun, I think, is more important than trying to force the goals, so inspiration is more important.
What do you think of the people who say that like goals are bad and you should just have no goals? I've read articles that are just like, instead of goals, just have habits, or instead of goals, just live your life. Like,
I mean,
what do you think of that?
It makes sense in a way. Like, don't have goals that you think define your worth as a person necessarily. Don't think that you are nothing but the goals, but I don't think that it hurts me to want to see a whale, for example. Yeah. It's not like crushing my dreams, keeping me from daily joy. I think it's only when you've got so many big ambitious goals that you can't enjoy anything anymore.
Yeah.
And when you overwhelm yourself, so you're not even making progress, you're just freaking out about your goals that you're failing at every day. Like, clearly they don't serve you. But it's a different kind of goal, I think, for that kind of sentiment. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what to call it, but you're clearly taking the goal too seriously in that sense.
You let it take over your life.
Yeah, you're making the goal more important than you living and happening to achieve something cool.
Like, I guess I liken it to, you could either have a faster rider in front of you if you're on a mountain bike, and they could be motivating you to push yourself, to try things you wouldn't try, to go faster. Or you could just like have this set in stone goal that doesn't bring you any joy, but you just like decided to doggedly stick to it for some reason. Like, I have to bomb this mountain at 50 miles an hour for no reason.
Yeah, like it's arbitrary and it's not motivating.
Yeah.
Those goals are pointless.
Because I think goals are still important in that they push you, right? Like, when in 2014, when I said I was going to get a video out every single week, that was a goal. And it was motivating, and it pushed me to take actions that my body didn't want to take and my mind didn't want to take at the time out of laziness. You know, I could just push this off till next week. I would do it. But because I had committed to it, I did it. And there were definite rewards to that.
Yeah.
So I feel like this podcast could be renamed to like two guys just talk about the middle option of all things.
Yeah. Well, it's perfect balance. Perfectly balanced.
There we go. Yeah. It's so much more flashy to make these extreme statements like goals are terrible or you have to have goals or whatever it is. But it's always like the middle way that seems to work. Like, have goals, but let your interest in the moment sort of also counterbalance your predetermined goals.
Yeah. Like, maybe you don't have to have like a numerical goal. You know, like I could turn stuff. I could turn like get in a canoe and go 3 miles. I could give it a numerical goal, but that's not the point of the goal.
Yeah.
So maybe working out or reaching a certain weight or biking a certain amount or publishing weekly, those can make sense within a short-term time frame to reach something numerical if the numbers actually matter. But if you're just like sticking numbers on stuff to feel impressive but you don't really want to do it.
Yeah. I don't think numerical is a bad thing all the time.
No, it can work, but only if the number itself, like, does it mean something to have reached it? Because otherwise I could just be like, I want to bench press 500 pounds. Did I think about that goal? No, I just made it up now. It means nothing. I don't know that is even plausible for me. I don't weigh very much. Is that plausible? I don't know anything about weightlifting. So I should not just pick numbers out of nowhere and then stick to them.
Yep. The only other thing I'll add here is that whatever goal I choose, I do try to be somewhat focused on it. And as anybody knows, I'm not like the best person in the world at focus, but it is at least a priority. It is something that I'm trying to do. So I'm not looking at my impossible list and saying, I'm working on all of these.
Oh, that's a good point.
I'm working on getting my powerlifting total up while also training for a triathlon and trying to climb a 5:10 route. Like, those are diametrically opposed things.
Yeah, you will do worse trying to do all of them.
If I want to, get my powerlifting total up, then I'm going to be spending 5 days a week in the gym working on compound lifts. I'm not going to be out riding 50 miles on the bike to train. I could do all of them and maybe even achieve all of them if I had the genetic potential. But like if I'm splitting my training regimen into 3 different total goals, the progress for each of them will be so slow. Yeah. And progress in one area may even be counterproductive in another area. I may not be giving myself enough time for recovery.
Yeah, and I think that the longer you're stuck on one goal, if you don't feel like you're really making like noticeable progress, it can start to feel debilitating, and then the goal's not even fun anymore. Yep. So setting a reasonably short-term but still purposeful middle goal is a lot better than saying it doesn't matter till you've done it all.
Mm-hmm. Question number 2. We're going to move on. How do you deal with building a strong habit when your girlfriend is not on the same page? So I want to expand this question a bit, because clearly you could just be like, I'm going to do it. When I was growing up in high school, none of my friends were productivity nerds. None of my friends, like my close friends, none of them were like particularly ultra ambitious types. They weren't the kind of people who were in every single club. They were the kind of people who like did their work at school. They weren't failures, but they just like did their work and they were like, I want to hang out afterwards.
Yeah.
Or maybe have a part-time job. None of them were like elite athletes. None of them were taking all the most advanced classes. And for a long time, I struggled with the whole concept of like that you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And like, should I be friends with these people? And I fundamentally disagree with that concept now. I think you need to spend time around very positive and productive and motivated people, but they don't need to be your best friends.
Yeah.
Because your best friends are people you spend time with when you're doing fun things, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't kick all your friends away just because they're not productive, because then you don't have any fun, and then you're not going to want to be productive when you spiral into depression. It's not going to be helpful.
Yeah, for the most part, I'm doing my work in solitude, or I'm having Jedi Council meetings with people who I really respect. But I don't need to, also go to the arcades with those people. I'm not going to be a failure. But this is an interesting question, and I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. How do you deal with the fact that your significant other may not have the same level of drive or want to do the same sort of productivity-minded things that you want to do? And I guess I'll put the question to you, like, do you even care if you and Ashley aren't of the same mind when it comes to...
not.
So you're not. Okay.
We have completely separate goals
okay.
and things that we want to do with our lives. And we support each other in them, but I don't care at all beyond, like... I don't know. Yeah, I just don't care beyond when we wake up. We wake up at the same time, so I guess that could lead to some conflict if I was like, I want to wake up at 3. Yeah. Although, honestly, she'd probably only be groggily awake for 5 minutes and not care long term.
I get up far earlier than Anna does.
Yeah, I just don't. We support each other's separate goals. There's no expectation that we will join each other on any of them, and it doesn't matter to me. She doesn't have any interest in learning foreign languages that I'm aware of. She doesn't want to be a programmer. She doesn't want to reach my high school fitness weight because that doesn't make sense. All my goals are separate, whereas she wants to work on her personal art and stuff, and I want to work on my photography, and we support each other completely, but they almost never overlap. Even we overlap in the fact that we read, but we do not read even slightly similar books for the most part.
It's true.
So there's
And
just
she never takes your recommendations.
it's just never. It's just completely separate, like supporting each other. But there's
Yeah.
I don't
Has
know.
there ever been anything where the fact that you're not on the same page has put stress on the relationship?
like for habits and goals and stuff? I guess I don't even know. I can't think of anything,
So like for
honestly.
the one thing that sticks out in my mind, and Anna edits the podcast, so like she'll hear this and we talk about this
Hi, Anna.
ourselves, in private. There's like, I feel like the person that I'm with has to prioritize their health, like in terms of exercise, in terms of eating healthy, in terms of sleeping enough, these kind of things. And if I was with somebody who like was way on the opposite end of that spectrum from me, who was just like, I'm going to eat junk food all the time. I don't ever want to exercise. I don't ever care about my sleep. I don't care about like hygiene, that kind of thing. That would be a huge issue. When I was younger, though, I feel like my view on this was skewed too far to like the opposite end, where I almost felt like the person that I would date had to be almost like me, like had to have the same priorities as me.
Like a bunch of athletic fitness.
Exactly. Like if I'm going to
type
be
stuff.
an elite athlete, like I have to be with somebody who's an elite athlete. Or if I'm going to be, if I'm going to be really into one thing, like that person has to be into the same kind of thing. Like you almost have this expectation that the person that you're with because you love them also has to be like sort of mentally aligned with you on all other dimensions. And this is one of the lessons my dad taught me that I try to think about a lot, and has sort of ingrained itself into my brain. He once told me that like you don't have to be exactly like somebody to love them. You just have to support each other. Like you just have to be there for each other in the dimensions that the other person cares about.
Yeah.
So yes, there are certain aspects of the relationship, and there are certain like ways you go about your daily life and certain habits you're going to have where there has to be some sort of alignment. Otherwise, the attraction is going to break down. Like if one person is very concerned with staying fit and all that kind of stuff, and the other person is like absolutely not, then that's probably going to break down. But that doesn't mean that some amount of difference between the two people is a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Like if you all of a sudden decide you want to be a marathon runner and Ashley doesn't want to be a marathon runner, that doesn't mean like you guys are no longer compatible. It just means Ashley doesn't want to be a marathon runner.
Yeah. And I think that like I used to feel this way for my first couple relationships, that like you needed to have that similarity, because I don't know if it's from TV or something. I don't know where I got the idea, but it's like, let me write down my dream traits for my dream girlfriend. What do we got? Well, obviously I just write everything. Loves video games. I'm just going to write basically me dressed as a girl. That's what I was looking for, and it doesn't, Ashley doesn't even play video games. It doesn't matter. It turns out that those things don't matter at all, because in fact, in some ways, if we were more similar, we'd probably be competing with each other and get really annoyed at each other. Like if I was also an illustrator, or she was like, I feel like we would just bump heads more.
Actually, yeah, you're right.
Because then it'd be like, oh, well, Martin's doing so well with that illustration. Oh, then he didn't even try that hard. And then we'd just fight each other.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in competition on something like that.
Now that you say that, I know for a fact if I was like really into illustration art, I think there would be a bunch of competitible there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
Or
would
like
get weird.
if Ashley was learning languages and she was like, she learned one more than me, I'd be like, I have to learn a new one or I'm a failure.
Yeah, that could be the thing. The other thing that comes to my mind here is, what if your significant other is really into the thing you like to do, but like they always want to go with you, but you're at different levels.
Ooh, well, I think
So like say like Anna was super into mountain biking, and she actually is, and we go sometimes. But like, what if we were so super aligned on that level that like it got to the point where I felt bad if I ever wanted to go faster, or if I ever wanted to go down a trail that she wasn't ready for?
that is a dangerous pattern.
Yeah, like it's
to
okay
be
if you
involved
aren't
with.
on the same page, because that gives you some time to go be an independent person without the other person resenting it.
Yeah, that's incredibly important. Like, if that's hard to find, then that time should be forced. You know, it should be
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna go for a few hours by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just because you're two people still.
Yeah.
And if eventually everything becomes, you're so beholden to the other person that you're like afraid to go have fun because they're gonna want to go have fun too, and you just kind of sit around and wait to see if they want to do it. Then things are gonna break down eventually, as both of you feel paralyzed by each other,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
that's no good.
But to be in a long-term committed relationship, you have to respect the other person. Part of that is you learning what the right amount of, I guess, what you're supposed to expect from the other person and what may be unrealistic,
yeah,
right? But the other part is that person does have to live up to your expectations in certain dimensions and to a certain degree. If you're just not compatible, then you may not be compatible.
yeah,
That being said, if you want the other person to change and they're willing to change, you can't expect them to change overnight. So maybe you do want to exercise more, and maybe you do want to have a significant other that exercises more, but right now that person maybe doesn't do it as much as you want to. You can't just be like, all right, overnight, if you don't exercise every day, then we're through.
I've prepared
Like-
this exercise routine for you, and
Yeah.
you will follow it now.
Yeah, that's it's give and take, right? You're two independent people, okay? And if you value the relationship, then you will value the fact that change takes time. And you need to be encouraging, and you need to start slow.
Yeah.
So
Although
maybe,
there,
hey,
there does
let's-
need to be a base level, though.
There has to be a base
You're
level.
right, because like, I don't want Ashley to unnecessarily give herself early cancer and eat nothing but Twinkies for
Yes.
the next 10. I will stop that. I'll be like, you can't. I'm taking those. You can't eat them.
Hide the honey
You
buns.
could do them. You're triggering me right now. But there is a base level, because completely unconditional love is like you could just give that to anyone. If it was completely unconditional, then you might as well just love a rock or a random stranger and say, let's get married.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you do or are or say or want, I love you. And like, sure, that makes sense in a cool humanity love sort of way. But in a relationship, I feel like people tend to want a little more than just to be an existent person.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this makes me sound like a terrible person, but like when it comes to romantic relationships, I don't believe in unconditional love. I believe in love that transcends the bounds of unavoidable circumstances. So like if one of us got horribly injured or disabled or something, love should
you wouldn't be
transcend
like,
that.
peace.
But if the other person's just like, you know what? I don't care anymore about my goals. I don't care about progressing. I just want to be lazy. Like, I'm sorry, that's going to be a deal breaker. It's just like, you can't just be like, all right, I guess I'll force myself to love this completely different person that you've become, because you're no longer the person that I knew, really. Like there again,
Yeah.
has to be some level of alignment. Just realize that sometimes it takes time to change, and you need to prioritize communication and compassion to help that change along.
Yeah.
This is a hard area to give concrete advice because relationships are messy.
I don't know. I
But-
guess it makes me think a little bit of how I view, like, if you look up to somebody. Also, basically, if you can't think of something that person could say or do that would disillusion you, and you'd be like, I can't accept that. I can't admire you anymore, or I can't be with you anymore. If there's nothing you can think of, then it may be a little too, like, you're deifying them.
Yes.
They're too much on a pedestal. Anybody I've ever looked up to, anybody I've been with, there should be some level where if they break that level, I'm at like, okay, I conditionally was down for this, but that was a blatant lie. I'm not cool with it anymore.
Everyone's held to a standard.
It kind of makes sure that I'm not sort of blindly following, unconditionally following something. If I can think of a reason, I would stop.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like there's more to unpack around that question of unconditional
That's
love?
because everything's big. That's because every question secretly turns out to be a philosophy question.
It's true. That is what
and
it turns out to
philosophy
be.
questions are big.
Yeah, that's very true. Maybe we can deal with that on a separate episode.
Yeah, maybe
I know
something.
we've talked about relationships before, but that whole idea of the unconditional, or I guess you could call it agape love, it's a complex and heady idea. And it's difficult to know how to apply it to every different relationship.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully there was something helpful there. This week's episode of our show is brought to you by a new sponsor, Chegg, which when we were in college was a website where you could go to rent textbooks or buy used ones, and they still do that. We actually used that to save quite a lot of money when we were in college. But now they offer quite a bit more. And they didn't tell me to say this, but I'm going to describe Chegg as a Batman-style utility belt for your life as a student. They do have their marketplace where you can rent textbooks or buy textbooks, which can save you a ton of money versus buying books at the campus bookstore. They also have a scholarship search tool, but what I want to highlight in this ad here is their Chegg Study tool. With Chegg Study, you get access to a massive library of step-by-step solutions to the problems that you're going to find in your textbooks. And that library covers textbooks in basically every subject that you're going to tackle in college, from accounting to biology to mechanical engineering. Now, in addition to having access to that library on their website, there's also an awesome mobile app that will allow you to look up the solutions from wherever you are. And I wanted to test that app out, so I looked up a book that I think both of us used in college, Big Java. Do you remember that one?
I don't remember any of the books.
You don't remember? Well, I remember it.
Not for programming.
Because I remember having to go through problems in Big Java 7th edition at the time. So I looked it up here in the Chegg mobile app, and I have found step-by-step solutions to every one of those problems that I had to go through in my books. Now, what if the problem that you're stuck on is from an assignment that your teacher wrote by hand? It's not from a textbook. Well, with the Chegg Study app, you can actually take a picture of that problem and submit it and get an answer by their team of experts in as little as 2 hours. Chegg Study's pricing is also very affordable, with a subscription that'll end up costing you probably less than even one textbook for an entire semester. And unlike a lot of those textbooks, it's a tool that you'll actually end up using to save yourself time and to gain insight on a lot of those tough problems. And if it's something that you don't end up needing, you can easily cancel your subscription at any time. So to get started, you can go over to chegg.com/CIG. That is CHEGG.com/CIG to get $5 off your first month subscription and to tell them that you came from this show. Once again, that is chegg.com/CIG to get that $5 off of your first month subscription. I want to give a big thanks to Chegg for sponsoring this episode and supporting our show. And also want to give a thanks to our second sponsor, you guessed it, Brilliant. Brilliant is an excellent math and science learning tool that helps you become a better problem solver because they focus on incredibly active learning through all of their courses. So whether you're using their platform to learn calculus or classical mechanics or gravitational physics or the fundamentals of computer science, you're going to be thrown immediately into challenging problems that, number one, keep your interest high the entire time because you're not sitting in a boring lecture just being talked at basically, but also help you to learn the material a lot more efficiently because you're learning actively the entire time you're going through those courses. Now, one course from that catalog that I want to highlight for you guys this week is their course on the computer science fundamentals. Because if you want to be a programmer, well, learning how to code is one thing, but the thing that separates great programmers from the rest of the pack is an understanding of these fundamentals. People who actually know, say, the efficiency differences between different sorting algorithms or how stacks and queues work will understand how to build better and faster performing programs, meaning they're going to be the people who are assigned to more interesting projects and, of course, who get paid more. So if programming is something that is interesting to you, you should definitely check out that course. Or if you want to just become a better overall problem solver and increase your skills in both math and science, definitely give Brilliant's catalog a try. To get started learning for free today, you can go over to brilliant.org/collegeinfogeek. And if you're one of the first 83 people to use that link to sign up, you're also going to get 20% off of your annual premium subscription. Once again, that is brilliant.org/collegeinfogeek. And I want to give Brilliant a big thanks as well for sponsoring this episode and being a big supporter of our show. Let's get back into it. Question 3. What do you think of tiger parents? Do you think what they do is right?
I had to look this up. I didn't know that phrase.
You never heard of like the tiger parent?
Nope.
Just like the ultra strict parent who just demands excellence out of their kid in everything, essentially.
Yeah, I feel like I know the idea, but I don't know that I've ever known a name for it.
there have been articles about it that I've read
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, I don't read
calling
articles.
Certain people target tiger
They're on the
parents.
internet. So
Yeah, I guess. What are your thoughts on parents that are overbearing and I guess they demand that their kids be like professional athletes or geniuses all the time?
I think that their heart may be in the right place because they're probably trying to reduce their fear of the uncertainty in their child's future. You know, you want good things for your kid, I hope.
Yeah.
I hope I can say that as a general rule. You want
Yep.
good things for your kid. So then because you're afraid they won't happen, you try to force them. But that's just like the goals we were talking about. If I try to force myself to do everything, I will take all of the joy out of it and I will have an empty yet productive, I suppose, existence. So and especially like for things like grades and stuff, I don't think grades are even close to the most important thing going on at school.
Yeah.
At least in America, because the social skills and stuff you build are like more long-term helpful. I don't remember a lot of what some of the classes did, even if I did well. But I don't know. I don't think tiger parents are evil. They're probably just afraid their children aren't going to succeed at something.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
think you're right.
Maybe calm down a little bit so that they have the chance to fail because that's important.
And I guess a parent needs to realize that, for lack of a better metaphor coming to mind right now, their kid is like a pinball, right? And you're the flipper.
Sonic.
Yeah, Sonic Spinball.
Spinball.
This is like Sonic Spinball now.
Yeah.
So you can influence the direction that pinball goes when you hit the flipper, but it's going to hit a bunch of other things, and it's going to bounce off in a bunch of different directions because your kid is a human being who has interactions and relationships beyond just the one with the parents.
Oh, well, that's the problem right there. We need to cut those off.
Oh, yeah. And so, again, to reiterate, I didn't really like Jordan Peterson's book, but there was one section where he kind of talked about this, where these overbearing parents are so concerned with shielding their children from these bad influences. You know, shielding their children from harmful images in the media or from drugs or from bad influences at school. But the problem is when you have taken away every single possible bad influence, you become the bad influence. You become the thing that is destructive in their life because now you're just holding them back. Or, you know, you have destroyed every potential chance they have to learn and grow from adversity. When you remove all adversity from their lives, you become the adversity. The only way they're going to grow is by escaping
By challenging you. And I
Yeah.
feel humans are like a little rebellious. Like we want to overcome challenges. So
Yeah.
that's a good point. If you get rid of all the challenges.
I honestly think part of becoming a capable adult is realizing that your parents are wrong
Yeah.
and defying them in certain areas.
Yeah, it's
I think
important to
that's
know
like
that authority figures can be wrong.
I think it's an integral part of becoming an independent, capable adult. Is like that first time where you're just like, Mom was wrong about that. And I'm going to do the opposite,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm not trying to tell parents to like purposely tell their kids
Oh,
the
yeah.
wrong things.
I'm just going to tell them dumb stuff
You're
all
a
the time.
fallible human. You're going to be wrong on your own. You don't have to try to be wrong. But don't get really mad when your kid makes a different decision. Even if they make the wrong choice, like, sure, try to teach them a lesson. Try to teach them why the choice they made might not have been the best one. But if they had good intentions, like, it's not a time to punish them. It's a time to say, like, all right, you tried to make a good decision. You know, maybe it wasn't the best one, but you tried to make a good independent decision.
Well, what you want them to have is like the critical thinking that you maybe hold. Maybe you
Yes.
want them to be able to follow your critical thinking to see why you came at that reasoning. But if all you ever do is tell them the reasoning and not the thinking process, and they can't work it out themselves, then I mean, once they move out, they won't even know how to tackle new things. They'll just have to
Yeah.
call you and say, "What is this bad? I can't tell. I don't know what danger looks like because
Should
I just
I?"
memorized a list of vocabulary words you gave me."
Yep.
And ball of spikes wasn't on the list. Is that bad for me? I can't tell.
Do I eat the laundry pod?
Yeah, I don't know. They look colorful like candy.
They do.
Do I eat them?
Wait a minute. Mom said no candy ever.
Oh, that's
I
okay.
guess
So
I
I
shouldn't
don't
eat
eat the
it.
laundry pod. But yeah, and also you're probably as a parent setting yourself up for disappointment when they do eventually not succeed at your like perfect. I want them to never fail goals. You're going to
Yeah.
be more sad.
Now, say you're a tiger parent who understands all this. Say you're still super strict, but you are pushing them towards activities where you will build their critical thinking. I still think that kids need independent time. I mentioned this in a video recently. There was an article that I found on QZ saying that doctors are now prescribing play as like a cure for kids because all these parents are overscheduling their kids' lives. You've got school, and when you come home from school, you've got music, or you've got Little League, or you've got, football or something. There's always something these kids are doing. There's never any time to just be a kid. When I was a kid, I had tons of time to go out and do whatever I wanted. We went out and built bike ramps in the street, or we had Super Soaker fights, or we sat in the basement and played Pokemon for 7 hours on end, because that was my time. Now, I still had part-time jobs when I was a teenager. I still played Little League basketball. I know it's not called Little League basketball, but whatever they call it for basketball. I did wrestling with my dad. I did powerlifting competitions with my brother when we were kids. We did things, but there was still time to play. And I think kids need that. Kids need unstructured time to just be left to their own devices.
Just the freedom to be a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that loops back to what I was saying about in a relationship. It's important to have some time.
Yeah.
If you work on the same goal at different levels, you want separation because you shouldn't just be, tied to someone.
Yep. And I mean, I'm not a parent.
Or anything. Yeah. This can be updated if I have children at some point.
Well, so
I'll think about it.
Is I'm not a parent, but I understand the desire. You want the best for your children, so clearly you want them to get ahead and have a leg up on the competition. So the thinking is, well, if all the other kids are just going to school, my kid's going to be in school, and they're also going to have an after-school tutor so they can, get ahead 2 years in math, and they're going to be in sports so they can get a sports scholarship, and they're going to be in music so they can also get a music scholarship, and all these things. Like I get the sentiment. I see where you're coming from. You want your kid to be advanced so they have the ability to compete because you feel like the marketplace is ultra competitive. But I think it's just like when I was looking at the class catalog in college and thinking, I'm going to get ahead by signing up for 27 credit hours. I'm just going to have all these things being shoved into my brain. I'm going to become a genius. You can't prescribe growth, right?
Yeah.
You can set up a curriculum, but there has to be some time for you to independently discover things in the moment. You can't pre-plan everything. Yeah. Otherwise, you're setting your kid up for depression. You're setting them up for the development of ADD, or maybe not ADD because that's genetic, but other attentional disorders, and a lot of other bad things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how are you even going to discover random stuff? I'm reading a book on botany, and I don't think anybody would have prescribed that. It doesn't even line up with my other things that I do. But random discoveries, how they turn out to figure out what they're good at or what they like.
The genesis of this career was me learning HTML when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
If I were to trace it back to one thing, it would have been that. And the only reason that I ever did that is because I was into metal music as a 12-year-old, got into the forums for a band I really liked, and really wanted to, I think the first thing was wanted to learn how to code my own forum signature. I wanted to figure out how to put a picture in it or a GIF. And then after that, I wanted to learn how to make a fan site for a band I liked. And I don't know how many years it's been since then, 15 probably. Everything that has come after that career-wise has been because of that one decision. And my parents would have never said, we're going to sign you up for HTML class.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have been a thing because back then, the internet, that's just a fad.
No, this job wasn't real.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you going to do with that?
I could not have grown up and said, what do you want to be when you grown up? I want to be a podcaster, web developer guy.
Mm-hmm.
What's that even mean? That's not work from remotely? That's not real yet.
Yep. And my parents were never that overbearing with my major choice or with my classes or anything. But I do remember them saying, if we had to pick something for you, we think electrical engineering would be a good field for you. Very, very different than what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I wouldn't enjoy being an electrical engineer, but left to my own devices, I clearly chose a different path.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 4. What do you do when you've broken up with a significant other or been dumped, and now the thought of that person is interfering with your studies? So how do you deal with the depression and constant mental anguish that comes with the end of a romantic relationship?
Yeah, or really really. And for what I'm gonna say, it probably works for anything. Like, you
Okay.
have a relative die, something terrible happens. I find repressing thoughts doesn't work at all if you just blanket want to repress them and not think about it. However, I've had far more success just saying like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm not gonna think about this for an hour. This is my life for an hour. This is what I have to do right now. I will think about this later. I will be sad. That's gonna suck. I'll be alone when I do it. I'll do something I like. I don't know. I'll get a drink that I like. But I'm just not gonna think about it for this small window of time. It's a lot easier to manage that because otherwise you're like, I can't ever think about it again. Oh well, now I'm thinking about it because I'm thinking about whether I should ever think about it again, and then it just gets worse and worse, and you're just gonna like explode in the middle of class.
So just like relieving yourself of the pressure that comes with thinking like I'm not allowed to grieve about this anymore.
Yeah, you should never not allow yourself. You should if you don't want to, like if you don't have time, you have class, you have a job or something. It would be much easier to temporarily get away from it, but you can't just ban yourself from grieving or being stressed. Even if you're like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go be sad on my lunch break, but when I come back, I'm gonna be happy again. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be doing my work for another 3 hours, and then I can go home and I can do whatever I want. It's a temporary thing. If you try to ban it outright, it will not work and it will backfire probably.
Yeah. Well, there was something I know my mom taught me when I had my grocery store job at, I think, 15 years old. She told me that if you're having a bad day, you don't bring that into work.
Yeah.
Because those customers don't need to know you're having a bad day. You are there to serve them. So smile, work hard, and when you clock out, then you can go back to having your bad day and you can get through it. So maybe your studies aren't, you bagging groceries and having to put on a bright face for a customer, but I think the mental game there is the same. Don't bring your bad day into your work. And that's going to be easier said than done, but I think that's combined with that whole acknowledgement that I can deal with this later and I can think about it later. It's going to be helpful for just sort of like getting in the frame of mind that allows you to focus on your work instead of focus on this thing that has happened.
Yeah, or even like if it's bad enough, you can take a few days off, or you can say, okay, I'm gonna do the temporary thing where I'm okay for classes or work, but then this weekend, I'm gonna get out of town. I'm gonna go somewhere. I'm just gonna relax. I'm gonna be alone, and I'm just gonna try to like recover and be me for the whole weekend. Like give yourself a break at some point, but it's not going to work if you just think I'm going to ban thoughts of all of this sadness forever.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to mention here is another thing I think my mom told me. When you get dumped, especially when you get dumped, and I mean whenever a relationship ends, you need to just accept that it's over. And this is something that took me a long time to learn. When I was 16, I got dumped by a girl. And it was devastating.
Oh, no.
And I do remember for probably a solid 4 weeks being at the same time very depressed about it, but also thinking like, no, this was supposed to work out. Like, she'll get back with me eventually. Like, I just have to wait, or I have to say the exact right thing. Maybe I have to like give her some space for a few months and then come back. And like I was constantly dwelling on that thought, which just kept me sad for longer.
Yeah, you're like rubbing salt in your own wound over and over.
Yeah, and just like the belief that it was meant to be, or that of course you're going to get back together, that's just going to keep you in that state of mental anguish for a longer period of time. Now, you know what? Maybe you get dumped and 2 years later you end up back with that person and they realize that they dumped you for the wrong reason and maybe it works out. Maybe.
Probably not because you obsessed about them for 2 years.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. They probably dumped you for a reason. But even if it does you no good to dwell on that thought after you've been dumped. So I think it's, when that happens, it's time to say, okay, they clearly decided to make that very significant decision to end this relationship for whatever reasons they had. Maybe it was me, maybe it was them, maybe it was both of us, but it's over. And it's okay to be sad about it, but you need to accept that it's done. Yeah. Time heals all wounds, but not when you're dwelling on this, fake possibility of it happening again.
Yeah, and I remember distinctly when one of my first relationships ended. I was like really sad about it, but at the same time, I really like the feeling of like a new beginning, which is why I like new semesters and the concept of like refreshing life every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And though it's a sad reason for a new beginning, it still is one. So I take it with all the seriousness that I would take like any new beginning. Like I start a new book, it's a brand new start. This is the best that we have. We start from this starting point, and there's nothing you can do about it. I just move on.
Yeah.
Something about the drama surrounding a new chapter in life helps interest me enough to get past things like that a little easier. It's at least a slightly positive side.
There's potential there.
Yeah, it's
Which
like
is-
potential.
yeah.
It keeps you from being hopeless.
Yes. Yeah. There's potential and there's hope, and you don't know what's going to happen. That's exciting. All right. Final question. And there's actually some detail here. All right. This fall, I'm starting a computer science program, but for some reason, I feel very uncertain about my major. I love computers. I love building and fixing them. I love managing servers, all of that stuff. But I've never been great at math. It has always been my weak point. I've always excelled at memory-heavy and language classes. And I'm going to have to take a lot of high-level math classes for this program, like Calculus 1, 2, and 3. I put 34 here. I don't think there's a Calculus
Calculus
34.
34 sounds pretty tough.
It's going to be real tough. I got to take all these in order to graduate. So any tips for dealing with these classes? This was the reason that I decided to major in MIS.
You didn't want to do math?
Yeah, I was scared of math.
Math has some pretty horrible branding behind it, doesn't it?
It really does. Yep.
Math is the villain of education somehow.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. I think it's the fact that math is... How do I put this? I think it's the fact that it's very easy to see the high level of math because it uses a bunch of abstract symbols. So you can look at a crazy Calc 3 formula and very clearly, like at a glance, see that, oh, that's way beyond what I can do. Whereas with, say, English, maybe the prose of Shakespeare is far beyond what you can currently write originally from your own head, but it at least uses a language you're familiar with. And you can at least analyze it and understand it. Because language in writing is meant to communicate something to people. And a lot of time it's meant to communicate things to the masses. So you can look at any sort of famous literature and think, I understand that. So I can work with that. I can memorize facts about history. But when I look at a bunch of derivative symbols and a bunch of Greek symbols and all these things, like it's just like alien language to me. And I think that a lot of people who believe that they are naturally bad at math are simply people who had an initial reaction, a repulsion to the perceived difficulty because they're able to see the higher level in plain view and they decided, oh, I'm not cut out for that. I'm not going to work hard at that.
Yeah, it just looks impossible from the
Yes.
get-go because it's a different language. It's written in its own little math language that you couldn't possibly guess. But even if you couldn't fully understand the high-level prose, you could at least kind of maybe guess.
Yep.
You have a starting point that you could start to pick at. But if I look at some math and I don't know what the symbols mean, like it doesn't mean anything at all.
And you also just have to realize that math is a discipline where fundamental concepts are required and higher level concepts build off of each other. You can't really jump into the deep end and just understand what you're doing. It doesn't work.
It's also easy to be shown that you're wrong, which probably doesn't feel good
That's
because
true.
because if I'm misinterpreting a passage, it's like a little open for interpretation, you know? Like, oh, I see. I just need to switch this idea. That does make more sense. But with math, it's like, oh, look, you were wrong. You were wrong on all 40 of these.
Yep.
You're really bad at like 40 failures. They're all distinct failures, and they all feel bad.
Yep. Another thought here. I remember an article that Hank Green wrote on Medium a while ago, and perhaps we can find it for the show notes. He was writing about the particular reasons why YouTube has been so successful. And one of his theories was that there's like this connection with the audience that is predicated on the fact that the audience watches your content. They realize that at a certain level it is impressive the fact that you know how to use these cameras, you know how to use these lights, all these kind of things. You have these presentation skills, but there's still some amount of I could do that in there. Like if you watch Hank Green making a Vlogbrothers video, talking to the camera, talking about giraffes or whatever, you're thinking in the back of your head, I could probably do that.
So it's easier to find inspiration because you're not like,
yeah.
What's the word? Intimidated.
And so and this is why so many kids today say, I want to be a YouTuber. Because there's like that feeling of I could do that.
Yeah.
There are fewer people who are saying, I want to be, a Hollywood director. Because you look at a Hollywood movie and you're just like, how?
You don't even really know what that means. Like, what does
Yeah.
it even mean? It's so big and abstract that you can't take steps toward it without further research.
Yeah. So same thing. You look at somebody solving a problem from Calculus 3 and you haven't even finished Calculus 1. You're just like, I can plainly see how complex that is and I will never be able to do that. But if you put in the work, if you solve the problems and you stick with it, I think that you can learn the math. I am 100% confident that if I had actually gone into a computer science program with the right mindset and the willingness to work on the problems, that I would have been able to do it.
Yeah,
I don't think calculus, and I don't think computer science as a degree is beyond my level, beyond my ability. I just think I would have had to work hard and have a more positive attitude toward the math.
Yeah, I didn't even like taking the math classes I did take because there was a long while where I was really confused by it. But the only way I got through it was saying, okay, I spent like 6 hours going through the homework, tiny step by tiny step.
Yeah.
And I'd get it wrong, and then I'd try to reverse engineer it and be like, where am I wrong? And hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And once it clicked, suddenly it felt fun because I was like, I'm going to succeed at the next one. And then I'd get the next one right. Now I feel great. It's like a success spiral. It's like because math is so intimidating, you have no confidence. And it's like the procrastination equation. Like if you don't think you're going to succeed at something, it's really hard to motivate yourself to do it. So that initial like 6 hours of I'm so bad at this one problem, like how could I not understand this? But once it clicks, it can only keep getting better until you have to find the next hard part that takes 6 hours of grueling focus. Sometimes life's like that. It'd be like that sometimes.
It'd be like that sometimes. It's a free psychological help for you right there.
But once you burst through, it will feel so much better because it feels good to be good at things.
Yeah. And I just thought of this. If anyone listening to this wants a good analogous experience to this that is less painful than math, but still gives you that same like feeling of being lost and then triumph when it clicks, go play the game Picross.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you get into some of the higher levels in Picross, you will be sitting there for 20 minutes going, I don't know what to do.
I can't go forward.
I have no clue. There's nothing that's telling me what to do. And I sit there and I play Picross. It's one of my favorite games on my Switch right now. And I'll just be sitting there like staring at it for a good 10 minutes with no moves. I'm just like, and I don't play with assists ever. And then finally, I'll just be like, wait a minute. If that's that, then that has to be that. And then it clicks and then things start to fall into place. And there might be several different stages in one puzzle where I'm like, I'll get stuck and sit there and then have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And just like with math problems, there are occasionally times where I will be sure I'm on the right track. I'll lay my little blue tiles down and then I'll realize, oh no, I made a mistake. And it was like 4 moves ago. And it's just like, it's devastating because you can't even remember the moves you made. There's no undo button. You just have to manually undo the mistakes you've made. So you have to like logically work backwards and try to remember what you've done. And I think I haven't had a time yet where I have to straight up reset the puzzle because I've screwed it up badly enough. But every time it happens, my immediate thought is, I'll never figure out how to undo it. I have to reset the puzzle. But then when I sit there and think about it a little harder and just be patient, every single time so far, I have figured out where I went wrong. I figured out the mistake, usually just counted wrong or I made some logical leap that was incorrect, and then I figure it out and solve the puzzle. And it's just like that with math. You get to these stages where you've made one wrong step in a problem and you feel like the only option is just to give up. But in reality, if you work backwards and you think about it, you can probably find
Yeah.
where you went wrong, and you can solve it, and that will make you a better problem solver.
Well, that's why I reverse engineered them, because I want to
Yeah.
know why. Why did I put the wrong thing there?
Mm-hmm.
Not, oh, I'll just undo it. I want to know what happened in my head
Yeah.
that made me think that was the right answer, because only when I understand that will I be able to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And this
analysis.
like it helps everything.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get this kind of confidence in your ability to solve new and challenging problems, like where can't it extend?
Yeah.
Everything becomes something that just takes, I just got to get it to click the right way.
Mm-hmm. Man, now I want to go play Picross.
Yeah, I do too.
I'll probably do that tonight. Ooh, and I'll do it on the plane tomorrow because I have a Switch.
I'll do it while driving.
Don't do that.
That's a pretty terrible.
Even though you'll be driving straight across
Yeah,
Nebraska.
that's a particularly terrible driving activity, I think.
Technically, if you had lane
Solving
keep
logical
assist,
visual problems.
if you had lane keep assist and adaptive cruise on the 80 going across Nebraska, I think a car could literally drive itself with those two features because there's nobody on the roads and it's just like a straight shot.
Yeah, until I get excited that I found the right step and I like accidentally slam my foot on the gas.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I'll just not do that.
Maybe not. The other thing I'll say here, though, is if the math really isn't for you, there are careers out there where you get to work with computers and you don't have to do high-level math. Working in IT does not require high-level math. Maybe doing heavy computer science programming does, but even the programming you do, I mean, you're working with regular expressions, you're working with object-oriented code. There's not a whole lot of crazy math you have to do.
Every once in a while,
Yeah.
something algorithm-y happens, you know, but
even
not
that's
that
like, what,
often.
algebra.
And it's like, yeah, it's like solving a couple. I've never had to use the advanced math that I learned.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't do
Me neither.
anything. You just get through it for class, and then it expands your mind maybe, or you just hated it and you cheated with the answers from the back of the book. You know, you get what you take out of it, but
if you're coding a physics engine for a video game,
Then you're gonna need it.
You need calculus.
yeah,
But if you're coding, a recommendation algorithm for a website, then you may need nothing more than statistics.
Yeah.
Maybe you took a Bayesian statistics class. You don't need Diffie-Q. Or maybe you just want to be a network admin. Well, for that, you need basically no math.
yeah.
I don't want to say no math, but you need nothing calculus and above to be a network tech.
No,
So
not really.
that's why I went into management information systems, because that was like you can be an IT person and you don't have to go any further than Calc 1. So don't be afraid of the math. Be confident that you could do it with the work, but there are also other avenues out there if you really don't want to do it.
yeah.
Yep. All right. So those are our 5 questions. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, guys, if you want to send your questions, you can send them to us either through Instagram or Twitter or email. I'll just give you our handles for Instagram and Twitter. I'm Tom Frankley, and you are Yo Bartholomew
Yep.
on both social networks. So if you've got questions, send them over to us. Those questions often become the basis for new episode topics, or they find their way into 5 Questions episodes. Also, if you want to tweet me new episode intros that are stupid but funnier than the ones that I can come up with, then tweet them over to me at Tom Frankley with the hashtag CIG Podcast. And speaking of CIG Podcast, you can find the show notes for this episode over at cigpodcast.com/227, or by clicking the link in the description down below. You'll find links to any articles we happen to mention. And I almost forgot to mention, for people who want to get better at math out there, I have got a video about how to get better at math. So instead of reiterating every single math technique in this episode, just go to the show notes and check out that video. We've got some good stuff in there. Last but not least, you can find our favorite resources for improving your life as a student, getting more organized, becoming more productive at collegeinfogeek.com/resources. And there you'll also find our college packing guide with everything you need to bring to your dorm or your apartment and nothing you don't, along with our essential books list, which has lots of different recommended books that we think every student should read. And a couple that maybe you don't have to read, but I love.
Yeah, books are cool.
Like Punching a Dolphin in the Mouth. I forget the exact title of that book, but it's from the Oatmeal.
Yeah.
It has not left the list because it's great. And sometimes you just need to read a stupid book. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this show, make sure you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you typically listen to podcasts. And if you want to support us, then give us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. That definitely helps us out. And I'm going to take a page from my friend Matt's podcast, Money Lab, which you should also subscribe to if you like business. If you don't want to write a big, long review, just make a review that's an emoji.
Oh, that's fair.
I would love to see what emoji you pick. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for this episode. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you in the next one. Stay cute.